Gaudreault. Welcome to our podcast today. As we approach the crossroads of life after 60, we enter a phase of life beyond menopause, and it comes with its own unique set of challenges. Often the advice that women are given throughout our whole life is simply for that of a small man's version of our reproductive medicine, which ignores our unique biology, especially beyond midlife. This perspective often overlooks the complexity and the varied biology of women and how it profoundly changes throughout midlife and beyond. In today's episode, I welcome an expert who specializes in this area to help us understand how women can utilize lifestyle changes in particular to optimize their biology beyond midlife. We will discuss the surprising strategies that will support healthy aging, which is beyond diet and activity. So, hello, Annie. How are you? Today we're going to explore how to break away from this one size fits all approach, correct?
Absolutely. Nice to be here, Patricia.
Yeah. Let's embrace the realities of our unique biology and optimize our lifestyle choices to live better lives, our best lives, actually. So, Annie, could you share what wisdom you have about optimizing health during midlife and beyond?
Absolutely. I think the key concept is that as a society, we're always very much focusing our conversation around lifespan. I like to shift the conversation to let's talk about our health span, our ability to thrive throughout these years. And I recently read, Patricia, this was really interesting, that the average woman lives after menopause 33.1 years,
Yeah.
right? That's a third of our life.
Yeah.
This is very powerful and a fantastic opportunity to really what we call upgrade our health and upgrade the quality of our life.
Yes, yes, yes. And it's interesting that, that's 30 years, that's 3 decades. Those 3 decades are almost longer than any other phase of our life. And yet it seems that the focus is on menopause and then all of a sudden everything's invisible, right? So I feel like I've been liberated and emancipated from that midlife rhetoric. Can you tell us a little more about that? I love what you said about the our lifespan and the health span. So could you tell us a little more about that?
I think it's the ultimate opportunity. We can finally make the choices for ourselves that allow us to have the quality of life that we want,
Hmm.
that things that are bringing us joy,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? And things that allows us to thrive. So by having solid footing in this, new chapter, which to your point, 3 decades, it's a huge opportunity. Now, you're 100% right. We are becoming more invisible. Yet, this is a time of life where we have the most opportunity also for impact. And we need to have solid footing in terms of our health in order to have that impact.
Hmm. Hmm. Annie, could I say a little more about that invisibility? I think because we do hear that rhetoric, and it's similar rhetoric that we've heard at different phases of our life, that we as women seem to internalize because people are talking about it. So, we recognize that there's many years that the medical profession has sort of put the research practice. It continues to treat women as though we're simply small men. So, could you share what lifestyle strategies are unique to women's biology, and it's not the same as for men?
Absolutely. And I think that our entire life, we know that we're, hormonally extremely differently wired than men, right? And this is not a conversation about better or worse. This is just
Mhm.
different, right?
Mhm.
It goes also beyond reproductive organs.
Mhm.
So people should know that it's only in 1986 that the National Institute of Health made the recommendation that women should be included in trials,
Yeah,
in
I remember.
in research. Like Oh my God. And I think that what we also need to understand is that it takes a long time for these research protocols and trials to take place. And then it takes an awful long time for these things to make themselves to available, either as protocols or drugs or medications and so on. We are talking like we are 40 years behind in terms of having real data that shows that women are simply reacting differently. And there are many things, again, that in science we do not fully understand. For example, why women are much more likely to have cognitive diseases. There are theories, but there is no true knowledge yet of why that is. So while we know that there are many differences from a hormonal standpoint in how we age, there is still so much to learn, which is why we need to make sure that we are very much proactive when it comes to our health.
Mhm, mhm. I wonder if part of that, I know there was a lot of talk about like even heart disease and things like that, about it was not studied as far as like women have different signs, right? And I wonder if it was, I'm going back now to studies around the medicalization of women's bodies and just the focus on our reproductive part, as though that is the only thing to be studied, right? So I wonder if it has something to do with that. And yes, recently they're starting to pick up on the fact that we have to look at these diseases that have just been studied based on the male body. Where do you think that they're going to go with this? I know this is a little bit off topic, what you and I were going to talk about, but I think we've come into an area where I think it's very interesting so that we don't internalize all the messages about hormones and things like that. Like hormones are important, but there are other things in our lifestyle that can be promoted other than diet and activity that can benefit us.
Oh, absolutely. We already see actually um, women voices far louder when it
Mhm,
comes to the medical community.
mhm.
I mean, we need to include them, even though we have a lot of criticism towards them. We need to include them because all of us together, we are going to be able to, raise the bar. I believe that we're going to be seeing, and we are starting to see it, a lot more research, a lot more lobby,
Okay.
and the exciting thing is also there's a lot more tech startups by women
Oh, yeah.
for women products, right? And that's brain health, cardiovascular health, lifestyle diseases. Women live differently, some lifestyle diseases, such as diabetes, for example, right? So, and within that, we're not all size fits all in terms of
Right.
culturally very big differences in terms of how we experience these things. So I think that those are exciting things that will really upgrade our health and give us more tools. Ultimately, that's what we want. We want more education and more tools to deal with our health.
I've seen an explosion in women entrepreneurial pursuits in femtech that
Yes.
I think is just amazing. And I just want to welcome Catherine. She's joining us from Colombia. Thank you for joining us, Catherine, on LinkedIn. If you do have any questions, I'll watch the chat just in case. So I'd like to ask Annie also to take us through some strategies that Annie has identified as being unique to supporting healthy aging for women that's beyond the rhetoric again about diet and activity. So, Annie, go for it, please.
Yes. So diet and activity definitely not forgotten, but there are so many more things. One of them is definitely the socialization aspect. This
Okay.
has been research. We have a lot more data that supports the fact that and this is where women thrive, by the way,
Yeah.
um, the friendships, the network. It could be also, of course, outside of friends, but the quality of our socialization is a direct correlation to our health.
Mm-hmm.
And here, when I talk about health, I think that it's worth mentioning that in overall wellness, we're really thinking about, mental, emotional, and physical health, right?
Mm.
Those are the three dimensions. And socialization is not just about heart. It's actually supporting our health in all three dimensions. And that is a very, very important part of healthy living and healthy aging. And we
Mm.
have incredible data to support it.
Oh.
The second one that I love is new research by, I believe she is a physiologist, Becca Levy.
Oh,
And
yes.
isn't she just fantastic?
Oh,
So
yes. An amazing book. An amazing book.
beautiful for anyone listening, breaking the age code, and a beautiful book. But the most important thing, and of course, she does touch on socialization in there, but the notion of our beliefs, and that our beliefs in regards to aging, whether positive or negative, will add up to 7.5 years
Hmm.
to our life. And those beliefs are more important than other markers of life, such as cholesterol level and blood pressure levels, and I say even like level of activity. So sometimes I think there is this hyper focus on, are you eating kale and are you doing your 10,000 steps? But we don't talk about the, what are my beliefs around aging, and do I think positively about this? And this is actually not that easy to do, because there's a lot of sneakiness in those beliefs, right? Because we're in an ageist world, as in the Western society that we are, right? So sometimes, when people say, that's just old age, and then you go, that's actually a terrible, lazy excuse. That's ignorance.
And I think Becca also talks a lot about that, doesn't she? About the language that we use, and we're just so used to it. We've grown
Yes.
up with this. There's going to be this time of, and I'm going to put it in quotes, old age or something like that, when it's really just aging, and it's unfortunate. I think it's Becca that mentions a story of a woman who was very active, a grandmother, so we'll use the grandmother phase, with her granddaughter. I think it was with Becca actually. And someone in a store remarked on her being something about being an old lady. And then for a little while after that, she noticed that her grandmother was actually taking that belief on, that she was an old lady. And that's what, when I speak about internalizing these beliefs, we have to be very careful about internalizing some of the language that we hear that does not apply to us. But like you said, it's sneaky and it can get in there, and you start to think, "Oh yeah, it did take a little more effort for me to get up this morning, right? For whatever reason." And that's almost like, how we talk about silent killers. That's almost like a silent killjoy, right? That's going to kill the joy in your life if you
100%.
internalize those beliefs from other people.
Yes.
And just one day you wake up because someone says something about your age, you think, oh my gosh, yeah, I am that age. And
I
no,
have this conversation every week in my
yeah,
practice, because women come to me saying, well, I know that I'm getting old, so maybe this is all normal. And I go, there is nothing normal about decay and deterioration, right? Like,
hmm,
there is sometimes a little bit of neglect, and this needs a little bit more love, and it needs a total, what I call a little bit of mindset, you know
yeah,
overall. But absolutely, it's very pervasive. So my invitation for women always is, be very, very careful about this whole aging belief thing, because it is so impactful. And then my third one, which is one of the ones that I'm very excited about, as we look at healthy aging and how we can empower ourselves, is actually the whole notion of new.
tell me
Re-
more.
yes. So this is very exciting. Research has shown that in order to keep the brain let's just call it excited, right? To keep the brain fresh, we need to expose ourselves to new things, to
Okay.
new experiences, to, it's like new friends. I was talking about socialization, so that's really important. But what's also important is not always talking to the same people about the same things over and over, but rather seek new people with whom having new conversations,
Hmm.
exploring new topics.
Hmm.
I always say, to clients, if you've never been to an Afghan restaurant, go try it.
Hmm.
If you've never been to a documentary, go see one.
Hmm.
This is actually how the brain keeps fit.
Yes, because even when you think about during your teenage years, those developing years, you were always looking for something new to do, weren't you? Always.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
nothing held you back. So I think it's really good that we take on that same mindset now rather than
Hmm.
say, well, this is what it is. This is what I have to live with, right? That sort of thing. Explore new things. And I want to make a point about friends as well, Annie. I'm sure you talk about this with your clients. It's as important to have friends younger than you and older than you, because the young ones will introduce you to some new things, like they have lots of fun things they can introduce you to. But the older ones too, there's still those who are even wiser than we are. And to have a nice complement of different friends with at different ages with different interests just keeps us fresh all the time, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's interesting because it is the same parallel to what keeps us healthy. Having a variety of foods, a
Yeah.
variety of activity, right? To expose ourselves to a number of things is how we keep healthy. And it is, of course, very common sense.
Hmm.
Um, but we are creatures of habit. So
Yeah.
we all have a tendency to kind of fall back into our routine and our favorite things, and
Yeah.
we get a little bit on autopilot. To a certain degree, that has its efficiencies. But as we look to the future and want to really have a wonderful fit mind and fit heart and a fit body, really embracing this notion of new experiences. And sometimes some people hear new things and get a little scared, and my invitation is always, newness mean it could be, I have never, like, for example, one of my favorite places in the city of Toronto is the Leslie Spit. I love that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I love it. And it's a beautiful bird sanctuary. So there's always tons of activity, even in the winter. Um, and it's really gorgeous. And then the number of people that I speak to that have never been there, and I say, just go, just go. You can access it by transit or by car, or in the summer with a bicycle, for example, but just trying a new park, a new place in the city. Right.
Mhm.
So it doesn't always have to be, I'm going to have to go to Nepal, right? It can be these new things, can be very enriching, and be very accessible.
I think that's a really important point, because some people think, well, I can't go and travel and things like that. So
Yeah.
they start to bring on those negative conversations onto themselves because they can't do something. But there is something that you can do, and look for the little moments of fulfillment and awe. Like I love when something happens that brings, it's just a little thing that brings awe to my life, and oh my goodness, like that's so awesome, right? So
Yes.
this is a great segue into, I have a special question to ask you, which is all about executive encore. And I talk about every moment matters. And so could you think of a time, a pivotal moment in your life when you recognized what fulfillment or what all looked like to you?
Oh, so clearly, Patricia. This is
Yeah.
absolutely. Um, I had a career before becoming a nutritionist. I had a career in marketing, and which had nothing to do with what I do today. But I was exposed to the world of running, and I got the opportunity to coach 1 year. And I was very honored to be able to do that. And when that first year, when I coached these women for their first marathon, it was a whole new lease on life. I
Was
finally discovered something that filled my heart like I didn't think was possible.
it? Mm.
And it was awe, and it tapped into something inside of me that I did not even know was there.
Is that right?
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So that was fulfillment for you, a moment of fulfillment. Well, a whole year, I'd imagine, coaching other women
Yes.
for the marathon. That's amazing. So, Annie, is there anything that you'd like to say to our audience? Invite them to be in touch with you. So, or is there any action that you would like them to take?
I always like to remind women that, one, it's never too late.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, we talked about 33.1 years after menopause, right? We have these incredible decades in front of us. Absolutely small changes will make big differences over time. So that's always a message I like to leave people with. And that I have a lot of resources and really want to invite anyone that is interested in talking with me through you to have a complimentary call where we can talk about strategies that will be specific to them and their needs.
Mm-hmm, hmm. And I do know that you do talk to a lot of women who are going through menopause, right? And so at some point, you and I are going to have a conversation about some of those insidious messages around menopause as well that
Mm.
women are internalizing. Like I hear a lot of women either complaining or, the jokes, the stereotypical jokes. So we're going to talk about that one day because today we've been talking about beyond menopause. But at some point, we're going to talk about that too. And we're going to deliver a very special message to those women who may be around the 45 up to the 55 age group that are thinking that 30 years, I got to get over this menopause first. Like, menopause is just another way of liberating yourself. I'm telling you, I can tell you that from experience,
That's well said. 100%. Yes, for
even though it feels
sure.
like a tough time at times. But and it's nothing to joke about. It's serious. It's women's health. So, okay, Annie, is there anything else? I will be putting in contact information in the description, so people will be able to reach you very easily on your website. And you've got a wonderful link tree on health wellness that gives a link to all your programs. And again, Annie is offering complimentary call with anyone who mentions this podcast. So, Annie, is there anything else before I go into a closing and thank our guests for joining us today?
Definitely follow on social because I am always talking and educating or guest speaker at different events, and where you can actually, get a little bit more information on cognitive health or nutritional psychiatry, all kinds of wonderful subjects that are relevant to women as we age.
So, nutritional psychology, I have to be in touch with you about that because that would be very interesting for sure. So, we intuitively understand that the importance of honoring our unique biology and the importance of maintaining our healthy lifestyle so that we can take advantage of those awesome times and fulfillment. And we can be awesome at any age. So, we receive so many messages that can be daunting to commit to a healthy lifestyle that is realistic. I invite you to follow Annie because Annie has some very different strategies that's unique to our biology and the specific needs that we have and our capabilities. Thank you to my audience today. Thank you to Annie. Thank you to Annie's followers. Please join me each week as I interview women like Annie and other thought leaders about finding fulfillment and joy. Thank you, Catherine, for joining us today, and anyone else who is watching and has not put anything in the chat. But we want to talk about this topic of fulfillment after 60. And there are times the topic can be around returning to work after cancer or critical illness when you come onto my podcast. As demonstrated by our conversation today, our ability to share with one another is crucial to our health and our well-being over the next couple of decades. Okay. If you're interested in being a guest, no matter what your age, what your gender, or your perspective on well-being, please reach out to me. Please visit my website at patriciamuir.com. Read my weekly blog at patriciamuir.com/blog and subscribe to my newsletter. Sunday mornings is a great time to sit with my newsletter when hundreds of women are reading with their favorite beverage about my latest insights around fulfillment and work. And I often refer to Annie's insights because her wisdom is critical to maintaining wellness and purpose in our life and our work. So make a move. What you can do for fitness and fulfillment and your health is important, not what you can't do. Thank you and have a great day.